Hello, and welcome to the Inside EVs podcast for March the 18th, 2022. This is episode number 102. Our topics today: Ford 150 Lightning EPA range has been revealed. Tesla Model Y SR Plus may be made at the Texas Gigafactory, and Audi A6 Avant e-tron concept debuts. I'm Dominic Chioni, Inside EV's forum moderator and Inside EV's editor. Joining us today is the hospitable Tom Malogny, Inside EV's editor and host of the YouTube channel State of Charge. We also have the multitasking Mr. Martin Lee. Mr. Martin Lee, hi, from the EV News Daily podcast, which, of course, is available on all your best podcast platforms. And Kyle Connor may join us from the majestic, practically palatial halls of Out-of-Spec Studios. He is, I believe, working, putting down as much video as he possibly can this week, and he may be on a runway in Colorado at this very moment, but we'll see. Okay, so before we get going, I'd like to ask that you please subscribe to the channel. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that thumbs up button and ring that bell icon for notifications. If you're watching us on Twitch, you can also ring that bell icon for notifications. So, yeah, with that out of the way, welcome everybody.
I don't think we can start the show without drawing attention to, once again, the world's smallest microphone has made an appearance. Look at this! Yes. Was that from a Christmas cracker? Or like, where's that come from?
It was from a Christmas present of some kind, yeah, actually.
I love it.
It was in my
look, it works perfectly well, and we can see you're on your travels this week. So, right. I mean, hey, if it works, I love it.
So, if we're going to kick off with what we've been driving this week, I haven't actually been driving anything this week, but I'm actually in Santa Monica, California right now in a hotel, and I spent some time with the Mercedes EQE, but I can't really talk about it until Sunday sometime. So, yeah. So anyway, that's what's going on with this whole background and this little microphone. Right. So Martin, this week I believe you had a home battery installed for your solar system.
Yeah, I should have actually had some pictures, I guess, ready to go. But yeah, but I don't know if I can take you into the garage next door. We tried this once before, and it failed spectacularly. So I'm going to try it again, and I'm prepared for it to fail spectacularly. But let me see if I can take you on a tour of the home battery that we've had installed, and we'll see if it works. I'm going to be on the Wi-Fi because it's the other side of that wall. So in theory, it should all work, and hopefully I can let myself into the studio with my mobile phone, and I might appear there. You never know. Okay, let me turn myself down. If I enter the studio twice, you'll get double me, which frankly nobody ever wants. But let me let myself in.
There we go. Oh.
Double you.
And okay, let me take that off.
2 Martins for the price of 1. Oh, okay.
Right, I'm going to go for a wander.
Okay.
If you could still hear me.
We can still hear
you. Right. Okay. So this is the not palatial halls of EV News Daily. This is nothing compared to Kyle's, where he works from. But this is behind the scenes of
EV News Daily studio.
The empire, the EV News Daily empire. If only. I've been tidying up after my friends, the solar panel guys, because I looked out my window this morning and they had helpfully left some cable ties and whatnot on my garage roof, which I can climb onto now. If this goes wrong, you can send this off to one of those TV shows that gives you $250 for someone falling off a ladder. So we had another 6 panels put on my flat roof on top of the EV News studio. And those are the 2 ones that power the off-grid kind of UPS that I have for the podcast. In case of the power cut, for instance, it's not connected to the home. It's a completely separate system. So 6 new panels. They are 370 watt panels, and they have the Solar Edge optimizers behind them. So that adds to the system that you can see on the roof.
370 watts is pretty powerful for a panel, isn't it?
Yeah, they're pretty good panels. I like them because they're black and they look sleek and they look nice, and they match the roof. So that was important to me, the aesthetics of it. And then the back half, so the studio is there, and then behind the studio is just a little garage storage area that I have for the washing, the tumble dryer and stuff. So I took the front panel off. This is the front panel of the battery pack. I took it off to show you what's behind it. Really not a huge amount to see, but I'll show you anyway.
Sure.
Let me make sure I've got that in shot.
So how many kilowatt hours is that pack?
Let's see if hopefully I can I spin you round on this on my phone camera? No, that turns you off. See if I can spin you around and show you. I don't think I can on the mobile version, so I'll try and do that. There we go. That's better. So this is 10 kilowatt hours of storage. This is the Solar Edge. It's called Energy Bank, and it matches the inverter that I have under the stairs. And that was important to me because it all kind of works together. So it didn't require going into my home electricity panel or anything like that. And if you can see, all that comes out of this is I've got the earth wire here and 2 DC cables. So this is a DC coupled Solar Edge battery around the side. We've just got a little panel here, little kind of sort of the breakers in there, which turns it on and off. It connects wirelessly to my home Wi-Fi, and it talks to the inverter. So it's only connected to the inverter via Wi-Fi. There's no Cat5 cable running around the house. And then these 2 DC cables, there you go in the into the bottom here, and then that runs into the inverter. Now the inverter isn't in my garage. The inverter is under my stairs, but I don't have enough room under my stairs for that. So 10 kilowatt hour storage, 9.7, I think, but it's 100% usable. So they guarantee it for 10 years, 70% left after 10 years. State of charge remaining, unlimited cycles, which was really important to me because I'll be using that battery as a way of mitigating the really bad energy prices that we have at the minute that have gone from sort of 15 pence to 60 pence.
Huge change. That's like 4 times, 400% increase.
Yeah, like the energy prices have gone crazy because of gas and all sorts. And so we'll be using it we have 5 pence overnight, a 5 pence overnight rate. And so I'll be using that to make the most of cheap rate overnight. Store the excess solar that we've got. So we've now got a 6 kilowatt, 6 kWp system, 10 kilowatt hours of home storage. And yeah, like I say, it's a DC coupled battery that I'll be interested to see how it works, because the Tesla Powerwall system, for instance, it's on your AC side, and there'll be some work on your home electricity panel. It can keep your home on when you have a power cut. Now, we don't really get power cuts here, so that's the downside of this system, is that if I have a power cut, it's not designed to then be clever enough not to, feed back into the grid, so the system doesn't work. But as I mentioned when I was out there and trying to candidly use my phone, the reason I got this is because my inverter is Solar Edge. And so this is a product that's been out a couple of months. I think it's one of the first ones in the UK. And so all of my solar panels go into my inverter. I've got a 4 kilowatt inverter, but 6 kilowatts of panels. And I can do that because the battery is there as a buffer. So you can overspec your battery, and it's not going to, and the inverter won't be clipping. So I've got 6 kilowatts of panels from 2 arrays, or what are they called, strings or arrays? They both go into the inverter. Then that goes out to the battery, which then I think then comes back in to the inverter. Is that right? Which then goes to AC. So very efficient, like 94, 95% efficient, because you're not going from DC to AC, back to DC to store it in the battery, back to AC to get it out of your house. You avoid a few, like 3 steps of AC-DC conversion. So a very efficient system. It's got its pros and cons, cheaper than the Tesla Powerwall, but I'll give you an update. So that's what I know a lot of people are into EVs, but they're also into sort of solar and storage. They find it interesting. So sorry if that last, 8 minutes or whatever it was, wasn't, you're here for the electric cars. But a lot of people are interested in that adjacent technology. So I thought I'd let you know a little bit more about it and answer any questions in the comments.
Right. I can't actually see the comments today because I'm on my phone. So I have to leave that to you.
Let's have a look. John, how much? John, check how much did the Powerwall cost? I will let you know the final price because it's got some tax to add on it as well. Because I had solar panels. If I didn't add solar panels, I'd pay 20% tax on having the battery. If you install some solar with storage under our rules, I get to pay 5% tax rate because they put solar in at the same time. So I'm waiting to get the final bill on that. The pack is around 6,000 euros. Yes, and the install costs, they were here for 3 days. So, but no work on my home electricity panel, etc. So no hardcore electric work. Jesse says Solar Edge is all DC too. It'd be cool if the EV charger was bi-directional. Yeah, I know. I'd love to have the Solar Edge EV charger as well, but I've got the My Energy products, which do the same thing. So excess solar will go to the car. Again, I don't want to bore too many people on an EV podcast about it, but we can use our excess solar if the battery is full, etc., to charge our cars. But the problem with having a DC coupled battery is that I can't put a CT clamp around those DC cables, that it won't work on DC. And so I can't tell my car charger that, you know, this is a separate energy store. So I think there's ways I can get around it, but at the minute my car charger sees the battery as load for the house, and it's like, oh great, gobble gobble gobble, I'll have it. So I don't want to use my battery in my garage to charge my car. I only want to use excess solar to charge the car. So bit of work to do on that as well. Leonard says, I did enjoy hearing about your battery. Bill says, very interesting. And yeah, did you identify a DC coupled systems that could do backup? Says solve fix build. Yeah, I think there is a product. I think Solar Edge in the US might sell a grid product that attaches to this, but it's not on the market here in the UK. Maybe different specs or rules. Maybe it's just not launched yet. I gather that something's going to be on the market, of which if it does this year, I'll add it to the system. Probably. I can't think of the last time we had a power cut. The main thing for me was that I wanted a bigger PV system. I wanted to not be sending so much back to the grid, because what we get paid for that, it's 4 pence to send back to the grid. It's really nothing. And I wanted to store any excess and I have it as a buffer, because, you know, if you're generating, say, a kilowatt, and I boil the kettle for 60 seconds to make a cup of tea, that 3 kilowatt kettle is then using all of my PV, and it's pulling from the grid for that minute. So having the battery just adds as a buffer, so it'll pull from the battery. And, you know, if you have the washing machine on, you know, it might heat the water up for 5 minutes, but then, so it can pull from the battery, put back into the battery, and hopefully it'll be an interesting thing for us to have a play with and see how that integrates with having 2 electric cars and a big self-generation, and of course the ongoing energy crisis driving prices up, which is, you're right, it's a 4-fold increase, which has been a shocking 12 months.
Yeah, well, I have a question, and I see Nathan Green asked the same question. Here in the US, a system like that would require a transfer switch to disconnect you from the grid, and you mentioned you don't have that. That's not required in the UK. How do you protect the line workers if there's a power outage and they're out there working? How do they not get shocked?
It shuts down. So if the AC power goes to my house, the system will shut down, and the house, even though I'll have 10 kilowatt hours stored, I'll have no power.
Yeah, even the battery. See, here the solar system will shut down, but I mean, that's a shame. You've got all that energy sitting in there. You can't utilize it.
I think it's the downside of this system if they don't release an extra product. What comes with the Tesla Powerwall? Because you get the Powerwall and you have another box that comes with it that does what you just said.
I mean, it would be called a transfer switch. I don't know the Powerwall that much. I'm diving a little bit deeper into what Ford offers for the F-150 Lightning, their home integration system that has the transfer switch and the inverter. So I don't really. I'm assuming that Tesla has that. So they would have to, unless the system would have to shut down, as you mentioned, during a power outage. Right now, I have a solar array. I don't have any on-site energy storage yet, but I think I'm going to be getting a setup like you pretty soon. I've been talking with a company lately. But right now, my solar array has to shut off when there's a power outage. And that just drives me crazy, because it's like I could be producing 9 kilowatt. You know, I have a 9 kW system, and I'm just sitting here running off my natural gas generator.
Yeah, that would drive me crazy. So we'll wait and see. I can't think of the last time I had a power outage. We don't get extreme weather where I am, so we don't get regular power cuts. I think if someone was in an area more rural, or if you wanted to go off grid, for instance, and just kill the breaker and turn your power off, I don't think that this is set up, it doesn't work that way, but they might release something. I'll give you regular updates for anyone that's interested, on my podcast and on this show every, few months or something. And I run the numbers and work out the payback time. Payback time was about 10 or 12 years. And then, Putin burped and gas prices went crazy. And, the ongoing madness in the world means that our electricity prices are going through the roof. And just to give you an insight of what we have here. So we have a government lock on electricity prices. It's called a price cap, the fix, and it's based on a trailing 6 months. So your electricity provider, and we don't just have one here. We have the company that does the cables, and then we have regionals. But there's lots of virtual power providers that sit on top of the grid. It's a very big market to choose to buy electricity from in the UK, and they are limited to how much they can raise their price by a price cap. But that gets upped every 6 months, based on a trailing 6 months. And if you look at the wholesale price of energy at the moment, it's through the roof. And the price cap in April is going to really hurt people. The price cap in October is going to put something like 15 million people into fuel poverty here. So while we had the opportunity to put that battery in, we're in a position to do so. But I think it's going to be really tough times for lots of people with energy. And lots of people saying to me already, you have an electric car, surely your prices are going to be, it's cheaper to drive petrol. And I did some numbers for people this week on a Twitter thread that shows it's not even close. I did a 120-mile journey for £1.50, and in an efficient diesel would have cost £22 because our unleaded or our diesel's about $8 or $9 a gallon equivalent for you. So again, we pay so much tax on fuel duty on that. So yeah, rising prices, but driving an EV is still far, far cheaper.
Right on. So Tom, thank you, Martin, for all that. So Tom, you've been traveling too. I guess you just got home like at 3 a.m. You were in California for a while driving something. I'm not sure what you can say about it yet, but I don't know. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Volvo had us out to Southern California to drive the C40 Recharge, which Kyle actually had a chance to drive that in Europe a few months back. It was released in Europe first, so there's a full first drive impression video up on Inside EVs if anybody wants to see that. But yeah, I just got in actually a few hours ago. I had a nightmare coming home. My flights were canceled out of Palm Springs. I had to take a 3-hour Uber ride to LAX, and then that flight got delayed 2 hours. So it was quite an adventure coming home. But yeah, I got to drive the C40 Recharge, and also very briefly the XC60 plug-in hybrid Recharge, the new one for 2022. Volvo increased the battery size. So the previous XC60 Recharge plug-in hybrid had a 11.6 kilowatt-hour battery pack. Now it has 18.8. So and a more powerful motor. So the electric drivetrain will stay on longer than the previous versions. The gas engine almost always kicked on. All you had to do is just barely touch the accelerator, and you were out of pure EV driving mode, which they actually call pure, and into hybrid mode. But with the new version, it's actually called the extended range. The XC60 Recharge extended range, and that's important because the 2022 model year for Volvo, they started making them with the previous tech, the previous battery and less powerful motor. So you can't just go and buy a 2022 Volvo XC60 Recharge and assume that it's this new version. It has to say extended range on the sticker. Otherwise, you're getting the old one. So that for 2022, be very careful if you're buying one of these. If you wanted the bigger battery and the larger motor, make sure it says extended range on the EPA sticker. Then in 2023, it's just going to be called XC60 recharge plug-in hybrid. They'll drop the extended range because there won't be two versions in the same year. So it's possible right now you can go to a Volvo dealer and there'll be two 2022 XC60 recharges on the lot that look exactly the same, but one will have a bigger battery pack. So make sure, if you're interested, make sure you get the one that you want. That's interesting. That's important to know. And then we got to drive the XC40, the C40.
C40.
I haven't had any sleep. The C40 recharge for a while, and tell you, it feels a lot like the XC40 recharge Volvo to me. Powertrain's the same. The battery's the same size. It's got a 78 kilowatt hour battery pack, 75 kilowatt hours usable. That's one of the things that's interesting that Volvo's been doing, and Polestar, is they let you use a higher percentage of the battery pack than just about every other manufacturer, except for maybe Tesla. 75 out of 78 kilowatt hour, that's pretty tight. But they do tell you, like Tesla, for daily charging, you shouldn't charge beyond 90%. And it actually comes set from the factory, like in the charge settings in the vehicle, to stop the charging at 90%. Now, of course, you can push that up to 100% if you're on a long road trip, if you need it. And talking about road trips, it's EPA range rated. Geez, it was, I think, 236, 233 or 236 miles, right in that range there. But one of the things that's super interesting that I noticed was Volvo used the EPA 5-cycle range rating on this vehicle. But previously, they always used the EPA 2-cycle. We've talked about the EPA's range ratings a lot on Inside EVs, and how the EPA allows manufacturers to choose which testing method they want. There's a 2-cycle test that really just does 2 different tests, 2-cycle. And then there's a 5-cycle test where you put the vehicle through 5 different cycles, and then there's an average that gives you your final range rating. And the EPA lets manufacturers decide which one they want to use, and they come up with different results. Typically, the EPA 5-cycle test has the vehicle certified with greater range, which is why a lot of people will say that it's very difficult to achieve EPA range rating with Tesla vehicles, and I'm one of them, and I own a Tesla. And when we do our 70-mile highway range rating tests here on Inside EVs, and we've done them on a lot of EVs by now, you'll notice that the vehicles that use the EPA 5-cycle test tend to fare poorly when compared to their EPA range rating, much worse than the vehicles that use the 2-cycle test. They seem to get closer to their EPA range rating, and in many times actually match or beat their EPA range rating. But that never happens on vehicles that use the 5-cycle test, because it seems like it's slightly inflated. We talk about, there's NEDC, there's WLTP, there's EPA. They all have different methods. NEDC is crazily unrealistic. It produces a number that is just, fantasy land. You never reach that unless you're driving downhill the entire time. But WLTP is much better. But I think EPA is even slightly better. It's even a little bit more conservative than WLTP. But again, it's very strange and kind of maddening that EPA allows manufacturers to choose which test protocol they want to follow. So I asked Volvo about this. I said, I noticed that you had always used EPA 2-cycle. Now you're using EPA 5-cycle. Is that why the vehicle has an extra 10 miles, compared to the XC40 recharge's previous test? Because these two vehicles should have, the C40 and the XC40 recharge should have very similar range ratings, because they have the exact same powertrain. They weigh about the same. I know the XC40 is a little bit bigger, maybe a little bit heavier, so that might make it a little. But their range rating should be very similar. Yet for this year, the vehicles have added like an extra 10 or 15 miles of range compared to previous years, and it might just be that the added range was because they're using a different test protocol, and they didn't actually improve anything on the vehicle. And the representatives at the drive couldn't answer that question, but they promised me that they would get me an answer. The question was, why did you switch from the 2-cycle to 5-cycle? So they promised to get me some results. So I mean, the vehicle drove great. I enjoy driving the XC40 Recharge. It felt like I was in an XC40 Recharge. It didn't really feel any different to me. I haven't driven one in about 6 or 7 months, but quite honestly, you know, if you just sat me in it, it didn't feel any different than the XC40 Recharge. And that's a good thing because it's great driving experience. A couple things to note: Volvo doesn't allow you to change your drive mode. There's no drive modes that you can switch to for the C40 or XC40 Recharge. It's just drive, and then there is a B, but the B is for one pedal driving. But there's like no eco, sport, normal, like most EVs have, and that's interesting. And also with the regenerative braking, it's either the regular driving or when you put it in B mode, which a lot of the manufacturers are starting to do now. Like Volvo, Volkswagen does that with their IDs, where it's just drive, and then if you want extra regen, you pull the gear selector back once more, and it goes into B mode. BMW did that with the iX, which I just drove last weekend. We'll talk a little bit about that later. There's no, you don't adjust the regen except for drive and then B mode. And I'm mentioning this because I think it's good that I hope the manufacturers all kind of settle on a certain way to manipulate regenerative braking, because for those like EV nerds like us and people that understand electric vehicles, we know like how to adjust regenerative braking and what it does. But for most people that are new to electric vehicles, the biggest change in their driving behavior is regenerative braking. And if there's all kind of different settings, that this is setting 1, setting 2, setting 3, regen paddles, it confuses the people. Now, I love the regen paddles that Kia and Hyundai have, and the Chevy Bolt. Personally, I think they're great. But I think if you have that and then you have 3 or 4 different levels of regenerative braking, it's almost too much for most people to deal with. So I kind of like that this standard regen mode, and then if you want extra, you drop it in B, and now you have one pedal driving. So I think if it would be a good thing if the manufacturers kind of moved into that direction. It'd be good for people new to EVs. And I thought for only having 2 settings, I thought it was great. The one pedal drive was very aggressive, really bit into the deceleration as you were going down. I found it that I could use it to, stop dead at a traffic light, even if I didn't notice it was red, 500 feet back. It was aggressive enough to really pull me to a stop and hold me pretty quickly in B mode. Whereas in normal drive, the regen was there, but it wasn't that pronounced. You'd roll right through it. You wouldn't come to a stop. But I mean, driving dynamics was great. It's got a lot of ground clearance. I actually took it off road for a little bit. I posted a little tweet where I had to driving off road for a a little while because we were out
on purpose, right?
Oh yeah, I didn't slide off the road. I went out by Joshua Tree. I actually, Volvo was really good. Some of these press drives we go on, the manufacturers really keep you under, tight courses and say, look, this is the course you have to drive from here to here. I talked to Volvo. I said, look, I really want to drive this thing down to 0 and do some charging recordings. And they're like, okay, have at it. Just, you understand, we know who you are, and we know you understand range and charging. So, have at it. They wanted to make sure I was somebody that had experience with driving cars down to 0. They didn't want to have a tow truck on a press drive and me shooting a video of it. So I actually went way different than everybody else, and I drove out to Joshua Tree. It was really cool, a beautiful area of California. So tried to do some DC fast charge recording. I got it down to 0. And one of the things I want to note with Volvo, some manufacturers, when you get down to the low state of charge, under 10%, under 5%, the cars almost behave normally, like they do when they're 80% state of charge. You might get a little reduced power, but with Polestar and Volvo, that's not the case. That when the vehicle hit 9% state of charge, it goes into turtle mode at 9%. you know, super high. And it already, I'm cruising on the highway at like 85 miles an hour, and it already had no pedal throttle response at that speed. It would maintain that, but once I slowed down to like 50 or 60 miles an hour, it was very hard to get it back up to 70, 80 miles an hour. And then when it gets down under 5%, it's almost unsafe to drive. You'd only want to be on side roads driving very slowly. So it took me a really long time to get it from 5% down to 0 to do charge recordings, because I couldn't go fast. I had to like just creep along at 30, 40 miles an hour. So that's one thing to note if you're interested in Volvos or Polestars. The way they manage the energy when the state of charge is low is very conservative. I mean, they want to get you to your charging station. They won't give you enough power to waste. But, you know, it can be unsettling if you're not used to driving electric vehicles. You get down to a low state of charge and, you know, you really have very little power. So I pull up to an Electrify America DC fast charger. I want to do this, you know, 0 to 100% recording. I haven't done it yet on the C40. And it peaks at 150 kilowatt. I plug in to a 350 kilowatt station and immediately jumps up to like 142 kilowatt. I'm like, great, this is going to be awesome. And then like 5 or 6 minutes into it, the charging station makes a loud noise and just shuts down. Ooh. So I'm like, all right, this kind of stinks, but you know what? I can edit the video. I can jump over to the next station really quickly and just piece them together. And yeah, I'll have to explain what I did, but if I do it quickly, it'll still be a pretty good recording. So I jump over to the next station and I plug in and I swipe my app and it says credit card declined. And you know, I'm using my app. I'm not using a credit card. I'm not using a credit card reader. So I do it again, same thing. So I unplug. I jump back to I take a look at the other station where I was using originally, and now it says the connector that I was using is unavailable, but the other connector was available. So I said, okay, let's give it a try. Plug it back in, use the other connector. The car's only pulling 35 kilowatt now. It does it for like 6 minutes. So I unplug. I'm like, okay, this whole session is trash, but now I need to get it charged enough so I can get back to the hotel. So I go over to the third charging station and plug in, and it starts pulling like 70, 80, 90, 100 kilowatt. And I'm like, okay, this isn't too bad. You know, it's not going to be good recording, but at least I'll get about. And then all of a sudden, after like 2 or 3 minutes, it's 80, 70, 60, 50, 40, 35 kilowatt. And that's it. So I was there like an hour and I got the car like 40% charged. Didn't get my recording, which is really one of the main reasons I went on this drive, because you guys know I love doing the DC fast charge recordings. And it was kind of a waste. And so, you know, I'm a big supporter and proponent of Electrify America. You guys have heard me talk about them a lot and say, you know, I have amazing success when I have Electrify America. I know a lot of our followers here complain and say, oh, this is broken, this doesn't work. And I'm kind of out there saying, you know, I use Electrify America all the time, and very high success rate, you know, well over 90%, where I plug in, boom, I get a great charge recording from 0 to 100%. It delivers the power I need it to. I mean, I've charged the Air and gotten over 300 kilowatts on a Electrify America charging station, but I also have to report when it doesn't work. And in this case, it didn't work. And it was kind of a disappointing charging session. And while I was there, it was funny. I had 2 people pull up. One guy pulls up in a Lucid Air and he gets out and yeah, I know. And he just got it a week ago, and he was having trouble figuring out how to plug in and everything. And so I helped him and activated it, plugged in for him. And it was charging very slowly, but he didn't care. He was going to walk inside. It was at a Walmart, and he was going to be there for an hour. He's like, he goes, I just came here to figure out how to use it. It's my first time using public charging. I wanted to know how to do it. Thank you very much. And as he's walking away, he turns around and he goes, you know, I watched a video a while ago of a guy that did a range test. Was that you? And I was like, yeah, it was. And so he's like, I thought it was. I didn't want to say anything as we were doing this, but like, it's kind of strange that I'd see you out here. So it was funny. And then as I'm doing the recording later on, as I'm just about packing up to leave, a guy backs in with a Volkswagen ID4, and he gets out and like he ran over. He didn't even like plug his car in. And he's like, state of charge. He goes, oh my God. He goes, why are you in California?
I love it. I love it.
I watch you on the Inside of these podcasts. I watch your videos. So that was pretty cool. So I was talking to him about the station and my problem, and he goes, man, I wish you'd have let me know ahead of time. I would have told you, don't come here if you want to do a charge recording. He goes, this station is notorious for this. He goes, I never get a clean I never get a clean charging session. There's always either shuts off or I plug in, it doesn't work. I have to go to the next one. And I'm like, yeah, maybe I should have checked on plug share, which I didn't. The user input, but so that's my story. I'll have a full first drive review on the C40 Recharge. I'll talk a little bit about the XC60 Recharge plug-in hybrid. Not a lot. I only drove it from the airport back to our hotel kind of briefly, and we don't really go heavily into the plug-in hybrids on Inside EVs. We talk about them, but the real full first drive review will be up in maybe a week or so on the C40 Recharge Volvo.
So just to talk about the plug-in hybrid for a second. So it's got a new 18.8 kilowatt hour battery, I believe you said. So what's the electric range on that one?
A little more than 30 miles now. I think it was 31 or 32 miles.
Okay.
It's pretty usable.
It's a pretty big SUV, right? It's like their second biggest.
Yeah, it's good size. I mean, absolutely.
Right. For a lot of people, they're going to do a lot of electric miles, aren't they? On 30 miles. I hate to say it because I want to be about pure EVs, because personally I don't want to buy a plug-in hybrid because I don't want to fix the oily bits, because all oily bits will go wrong. But I think for many people, I sound like I'm reluctantly going to say this, but that's a really good way of going electric if you don't want an electric car.
Right. Yeah. For some people, maybe it's the right solution. Yeah.
30 miles is good.
I think a lot of people are going to just wander into a Volvo dealership and leave with one of those, like with no intention of buying an electric car, whereas they wouldn't have left with the fully electric, say XC40 Recharge, because they're not ready for that. But
it's too big a change.
If the salespeople can explain to them that, look, you don't have to change your behavior too much. Like don't worry, it's got the 2-liter 4-cylinder. If you never plug it in, you'll be totally fine. Like you never have to plug it in if you don't want to. I mean, obviously, it would be a shame to get it and not plug it in, but I think that's a selling point, as crazy as it sounds. Like, it wouldn't be for us, but for somebody that went to a dealership, maybe has an XC60, their lease is up, they're going to get a new one, and the dealer's like, hey, with incentives, this one, might even cost less than the one without the battery, and you can average maybe 80 miles per gallon, and you don't have to buy any extra equipment or anything to charge this. It comes with a level 1 here in the US. A level 1 is 120 volt, like household outlet. And it comes with that. And quite honestly, that's all you need. The battery's not that big. If you plug it in when you come home at night, it'll be fully charged by morning, or, it should be very close to fully charged by morning. If you don't want to go all in and buy a level 2 charging cord and have a 240 volt outlet installed in your garage, you can survive with the 110, and you'll still get great gas mileage. So, and I think that for a lot of people, that's kind of like the gateway drug, Martin, and they wouldn't have bought a fully electric vehicle, but now they bought a car that plugs in. They've leased it for 3 years. They're used to this plugging thing, and now they're like, "Yeah, I think I can go all electric next time." So, in that regard, I think that they're still absolutely necessary plug-in hybrids at this point. I know people disagree with me, but everybody has different tolerance and levels of adventure, and for a lot of people, that jump to fully electric is just too big.
Then are Volvo putting on the CCS socket, or are they sticking with just the Type 1? Because BMW are putting on the CCS combo plug, and plug-in hybrids are sitting on DC fast chargers.
So just the J1772 for the plug-in hybrid.
Okay.
And it only charges at 3.3 kilowatt too. It doesn't have a 6.6 kilowatt charger, so you're stuck on slow charging. I'm big proponent of having 30 amp level 2 charging for plug-in hybrids that have big batteries, like 18.8 kilowatt hour battery is a big battery. Once you get down under 15 kilowatt hour, you almost can say, well, it doesn't make that much of a difference. But when you get a big battery pack like this, you should be able to recharge it quickly, because then you could use it a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if you're going to go do, I know everything's a bit more spread out where you are, generally speaking, but here I could do all of my miles in a week. Not a week cumulatively, but every day. I'd never go, maybe it's because of the pandemic. I don't go more than 15 miles away from my house, apart from for a reason. So, maybe it's a weekend trip to see family, or, day trip to the zoo or something with our little one. But 9 times out of 10, doing errands, just living our life, that would keep us, and especially if it's less sensitive now to that kicking in, like you said at the very beginning of the segment, if you can keep it on electric, that's probably going to be a good solution for many people. But please, please, please plug it in. Don't carry a battery around with you if you're never gonna charge it. The 2 boys that lifted on the battery behind this wall, that's 121 kilograms, and that looked heavy, for 2 people. Yeah. So, you double the size of that, and you're carrying it around with you. Please, if you got a plug-in hybrid, someone that has, or a family, a friend, tell them to charge it, please. Or just sell it and get a pure combustion car and let somebody else have the car that's going to charge it. That's so important.
Yeah, totally agree.
So, Tom, you also had the BMW iX this week, I believe.
Yeah, so
man, you're so lucky, man.
the iXs are just arriving at dealerships here in the U.S. And right. Yeah, I had the opportunity to do the first drive back in September in Germany, and I have a video up on Inside EVs and on my YouTube channel also for my first drive review if you want a comprehensive overview of it. And I love it. The iX, I've said this on the podcast, quite a few times. I would personally take one over Tesla Model X, absolutely. And I'm a Tesla fan. It absolutely is a fantastic driving vehicle. The interior is so nice. It is, I think, the quietest EV I've ever driven. If not one of the e-tron is very quiet. Right. But this, I think it's even quieter than the e-tron. And the interior cabin is just such a quiet, peaceful place. Even at higher speeds, you get very little wind noise. BMW did a masterful job at isolating wind, and really great driving vehicle. It drives like a car. So yeah, the reason why I have it is BMW didn't give me one yet. They've been promising me one for a while. I really had expected to get one by now. But there's a local BMW dealership that I do a lot of work with. And they called me up. They got one in on last Saturday, and they're like, "Look, we got the iX in. It's our first one. It's I think BMW is like making them put it on a showroom. Like they can't sell it. They has to be for display and scheduled test drives and things like that to let people see what it's like." And they said, "So we're closed tomorrow," which was on Sunday. And they said, "If you want to come by tonight and pick it up and take it for Sunday and then have it back here Monday morning, that's fine." They said, "But you can't do a range test with it because, you can't drop it back off with 500 miles. It had 15 miles when I picked it up." So wow. I couldn't do the range test, but, and I felt so bad. They had it detailed and it was perfect, for the showroom, and it was snowing when I got it. You could see that the picture you have up there, it's ice and salt on the road. And I dropped it off the next day. It looked like it went through a war. I mean, it was like, covered in salt, and I felt so bad. But anyway, they knew that that was going to be the case. So I was able to, just drive it for the day and do some DC fast charge recordings. And that recording went great. You could see me there at Electrify America. I pulled in first, and then all of a sudden next to me, a Taycan pulls up 2 stalls down, and then a Mercedes EQS pulls up. And I'm like, that's like the triple crown of German EVs, all right. It doesn't get any better than that. It was pretty cool. So, and the guy just got the EQS, and surprisingly, so I started talking to him. He got it 2 weeks ago, and he's like, I hate it.
No,
really?
I hate it. He goes, I'm bringing it back.
Why?
And I'm like, why? And he goes, the door handles don't open when I approach the car like they're supposed to. He goes, I couldn't get in the car the other day. I was on the phone with Mercedes, trying to get me in the car remotely. He said the infotainment screen shuts off randomly. He said, I paid too much to have a buggy car.
Yeah.
And so he's looking at the iX, and he goes, this thing's really cool. He goes, I didn't think these were coming out the next year. So I started talking to him about it. He goes, that's it. He goes, I'm going to the BMW dealership tomorrow buying it because I'm giving this back to Mercedes.
I hope you get your commission in the post.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's at least what he told me. But
right.
so yeah, and the iX during the charging, I'll have the full video up in a week or two. I got a ton of things to do between now and then. It's supposed to accept up to 200 kilowatts. I know BMW said 195, but I think some people have seen it reach 200 kilowatt, and I saw 194. I think
that'll do
at peak, which was great. My charging curve wasn't as good as what BMW put out. BMW actually put out the charging curve for the iX and said that it should go from 10 to 80% in 32 minutes. It took me about 39 minutes, but it's cold, and you know that everybody knows that cold weather affects DC fast charging. But I thought that for 25-degree temperatures to get from 10 to 80% in say 40 minutes or a little under 40 minutes, that was pretty good. So I'm certain that it'll deliver the charging that BMW promises once it's a little bit warmer.
So in the picture here, they're showing on our screen, the BMW iX looks like huge compared to the EQS. Is that the way it actually is, or is that like a trick of the camera?
It might be a trick of the camera. It's a good size SUV, but it might be because of the angle, like it's stretched out a little bit. Because the EQS is a pretty big, big
that's
vehicle.
True.
But it's a good size. The iX it's a good size vehicle. It's got a ton of room inside. I mean, it's bigger than an e-tron. And it's pretty roomy in there.
Yeah, I think BMW have a hit on their hands with that, even though a lot of people will object to the front grille situation there. But
yeah,
anyway,
I think it's interesting what you say just quickly about the EQS owner. I will propose if that had been a Tesla owner, they would have rolled their eyes and gone, Tesla couldn't get in my car. A Mercedes-Benz EQS driver says, no, Mercedes-Benz. I think that might be the difference between those two brands, a Mercedes brand, a startup brand. Hey, I've been around EVs for so long that if I'm dropping 150 grand, I don't care what it is. I want it to work. But I think a lot of Tesla, a lot of Rivian, a lot of maybe Lucid, a lot of startup brands have, at the minute, Tesla have still got it. Runway, they've got leeway with their buyers. Not all. Now, lots of Tesla buyers I know have gone, I'm not taking that car, let alone giving it back. But I think many of them do put up with stuff because they like to be part of an early adopter group. They feel like they're helping solve problems. Interesting that you met a Mercedes-Benz buyer that had just zero tolerance. Just, I don't want to help them build a great EV because I've just spent this much money. Super. I think that's really interesting, actually.
It's going to work. You're right.
Yeah. Difference in their brands.
Yeah, I agree, Mark. But I also do know for a fact that there are people that had that experience with Tesla and made them take the car back.
Okay.
So I think the vast majority of Tesla owners were more more forgiving. But there's definitely, I mean, I know people that have sued Tesla to take the car back, over issues. So it's not everyone, but it's the fanboyism is strong with the Tesla brand. Let's be clear.
I got two great Tesla stories that I heard that I'll pass on to the audience, but I can't say any names. I know somebody who recently bought a Tesla, and then when they get to about a week before, they checked their account and it wasn't in there, and so they called them and said, "Oh, you've taken my car. You can't buy a car. We've taken it off you." And he's like, "But you've got my money." And now he didn't want to fall out with them, so he's like, "Okay, they're going to give it back to me at some point. I need to text him to see if they're giving him his money back." But what car company, a week before you get a delivery of a car, go, "Yeah, you can't have that car." No, not you can't have that car. Bizarre. You can't have the car. You bought the car. We haven't got one to sell you. So try again. Put in a fresh order. Now maybe it's because he ordered and the prices went up. But what car company can do that? So I guess they're like, sue us. And another friend of mine traded in his car, and then they got the price wrong at Tesla just because their systems are so terrible. They do so much with so few people, so little. And a friend of mine was driving away in his new Tesla, and they called and went, "We got the trade-in price wrong. Come back and write us a check." And he went, "No," because it's a done deal now. You've signed it.
Yeah, it's done. That's right.
But you have to. We did it wrong. And he's like, well, then you did it wrong. Like, you need to get you need to be a proper company now. You've been around long enough. You've got to be a proper company. And again, people will point to how much they do with so few people, with so few resources. They're pulling in, on busy delivery days, last day of the quarter, they're pulling in the receptionist and they're pulling in, the gardener. Right. Do a handover. And I'm exaggerating slightly, but not much. But when things go wrong, it's they're not really a startup anymore, but they've still got, so as Tom says, they do still have issues, but two funny stories that I want to pass on, but I can't tell you any more about those people because some of them are reasonably well known.
Sounds like somebody got a good deal.
I have a similar story with a trade-in. I had a Chevy Equinox, years ago, 2011, and it was actually a really good small SUV. And I had always been a proponent of Chevy making an all-electric Equinox. I'm so glad that they announced it. And so I traded it in to, there was a used car lot, a place where I lived at. They're known for buying, used cars and giving a good deal. And I wanted to do something without having a hassle at the time. So I brought it there, and the owner of the lot was actually one of the people there. And it was a big place, so there's many employees. I somehow just got the owner. And comes out, does an inspection, brings it in, has their mechanics inspect it, comes out and says, okay, we'll give you whatever it was. I forget what it was at the time, like $18,500, something like that. And that was more than I expected to get for it. Like, I was like, that's awesome, fantastic, yeah, let's do it. Write it up. We wrote it up. He cuts me a check. Like an hour later, he calls me up, like apologizing and saying, I made a huge mistake. Like, I put in their computer, to give them the estimated price. Mine was a 2011. He said, I put in like a 2016 or something like that. I'm home with the check in my hand. And I'm like,
what do you do?
And he goes, I hate to do this, but can you come back and would need to redo the deal? And I was like, no,
it's not how it works.
It's over. Like, the deal's done. I have a signed contract that you offered me $18,500 for the vehicle, which I accepted. It wasn't that big of a difference. I was expecting somewhere around 14 or 15,000, something like that. So, I mean, it was a good thing for me. It wasn't like I sold them a $5,000 car for $18,000. I should have known better. It was not unrealistic that somebody could offer me a lot because it was in perfect condition. It really was. I really do. I drive my cars hard, but I take care of them. They look like brand new 10 years later. All my cars do. And after like 5 minutes on the phone, I'm like, I can't, like, you're the owner, like, man up. You made a mistake. Like, I could see if you were one of the employees and you're calling me up crying saying they're going to fire me if I don't get this deal overturned. I might have felt bad for the person. I don't know, but like, dude, you own this lot. Like, you're talking to me when we're there about, how, you buy 150 cars a week and all this stuff and everything. So, you win some and you lose some.
Hey. I love that story.
Yeah.
All right, so we should talk about some news. Let's talk about some news. So it seems like we've been waiting a long time to learn the EPA range for the Ford F-150 Lightning, but it's finally public. It gets up to 320 miles, I believe.
Yes.
Let's see. Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah. So 320 miles is like the top number, and 230 miles is the low number. So the Pro, let's see, most affordable version on 18-inch wheels, gets 230 miles. If you have the extended range battery, which is available for fleets only, I believe, in the Pro, you can get 320 miles with that. And then the other ones are pretty much the same way, I believe. The XLT on 20-inch is probably going to be 320 miles. The XLT short range on 18-inch wheels is probably the same as the Pro short range, right? So 230 miles. And I guess the big difference would be the Platinum. If you're going all out, you get the Platinum on 22-inch wheels. The extended range battery is going to be like 300 miles, so you're going to lose a bit off of that one with the big wheels. But so Tom, you got the Lariat coming.
The extended range Lariat with 20-inch wheels. So mine will be EPA range rated at 320 miles.
Oh, that's the one.
Pretty much what we were expecting. Ford had been saying that They're targeting 300 miles for the extended range battery pack and 230 miles for the standard range pack. So no big surprises here. You know, if you want to say surprise, the extended range did produce a little bit with 320 miles. You know, most of the trims with the extended range are going to be EPA range rated at 320. You're only going to get the 300 if you get the Platinum, which has the 22-inch wheels, and it's also a little bit heavier. The biggest difference on the Platinum, the reason why I didn't go for it, well, it was 10 grand more. And for $10,000, you don't get a whole lot. The biggest thing you get are the bigger wheels, and they actually look a little bit nicer. I like those wheels. And also a nicer interior, like a two-tone leather interior with a nicer dashboard. So it just wasn't, the value wasn't there. The $10,000 wasn't there. If it was $5,000 more than the trim, the top of the line Lariat, I think I might have gone for it, but not for about $10,000 more. So you know, I'm super happy with 320 miles EPA range rating. It's similar to the Rivian. Rivian's 314 miles, and the F-150 Lightning has a slightly bigger battery and it's slightly heavier, so it makes sense that it comes in at this amount. And the only thing I'd like to add to this, if you remember, there was some discussion on whether Ford was sandbagging the range rating, because those of us that had a chance to sit in the F-150 Lightning and scroll through some of the menus saw a range rating in there of like 468 miles, I think it was. And so the EV Pup asked, Tom, did you add the max tow package after your order? Yes, I did. I added it, but not after they lowered the price. I pretty much did it immediately. If you guys remember, I talked on our podcast that I didn't get the max tow package. And the next day, Ford called me up. We had a little conversation about it.
Oh, nice.
And I ended the conversation with, okay, add it to my order. So they did it on their end and added max tow package to my order. I got a call from my dealer saying, hey, Ford just updated your order and added this option. Do you want it? And I was like, yeah, I want it. So I was like, okay, that's cool. But so yeah, I have max tow package now. But we're talking about the range. So we know Ford watches this podcast. I mean, they've told me that they do on many occasions. I mean, Darren, who we had here, Darren Palmer, who we had here as a guest, has told me that he watches it every week. So if you're out there, Darren, hi, how's it going? Good job with the range rating. You know, and I build my truck. I want it now.
Yeah, get it done.
Anyway, so we were talking about the range that in one of the screens, it showed 468 miles. So, you know, we speculated, and that's what we're here to do as journalists, speculate, could they be sandbagging? But once they came out and told us how big the battery pack was, that's the extended range battery pack has a usable capacity of 131 kilowatt hour. Once that number was established, anyone that knows, that really understands electric vehicles and range and efficiency knows that, okay, the 300 is really going to be where it's at. There's no way this thing's going to go 400 miles, even though there was still a lot of people speculating. I actually was on some of the F-150 Lightning forums yesterday, and before this got posted, and I was kind of telling everybody, look, guys, if you're thinking that they're going to pull a surprise and have a 400-mile truck, please, you know, don't think that anymore. It's got 131 kilowatt hour battery pack. You know, I said 300 to 315 miles is going to be where this EPA range rating comes in. No more, no less. I said, take it to the bank. And it came out 300 for the 22-inch wheels and 320 for the 20. So I was off by 5 miles. But I mean, it's just, you can't squeeze more than that out of a 131 kilowatt hour battery pack. I think they did a good job considering it's a big, boxy, heavy vehicle. That's not terrible efficiency.
Right. It's bigger than the Rivian, actually, right? Slightly bigger than the Rivian. So the fact that it gets a bit more range is, you know, it's great. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it does have a slightly bigger battery pack. The Rivian's total capacity is 135 kilowatt hour. The F-150 Lightning's usable capacity is 131. Now, Ford's never published what their total capacity is, but I think like recently, a few weeks ago, I think somebody leaked it, and it was in the 140s. I think like 145 or something like that. So it's a little bit bigger.
That's reasonable sounding.
Yeah, it's a little bit bigger, but it's absolutely a bigger truck.
Right. Well, I think it's a great number, and I think owners will be pretty happy with that. Over 300 miles, or 300 miles or over. We'll see how it does on the highway at 70 miles an hour soon, I hope.
Oh yeah, I'm hoping to get a hold of one before they launch. I've been working with Ford to try to see if I can get one before they're in customers' hands to do some testing. We'll see. It probably won't happen. A lot of times the engineers are tweaking and adjusting software and charging rates right up till delivery. And then sometimes even after they do OTA software updates. So they know that I'm not I think if I was just going to take it to do a first drive impression video, they might give me one. But knowing that I'm going to scrutinize the charging rate and do a 70-mile-an-hour higher range test, that works against me because quite often the software isn't 100% set. I mean, that's why BMW, I've been pestering BMW to give me an iX and an i4. And I know up until last week when the cars got shipped to the dealers, they didn't have final production charging software in the vehicles yet. So they wouldn't give me one because, they're like, you'll be disappointed. It's not where we want to be at or where we're going to be at when customers get the vehicle. So we'll see. And talking about or comparing it to Rivian, for those that are watching, wondering why Kyle's not here, Kyle got a loan of a Rivian R1T. He's got it for a week or so. And that's why he's not here today, because he's doing a ton of tests with it.
Yes.
He
was pulling trailers yesterday.
Yeah, today he's got it on his airstrip, and he's going to be doing drag races with all different EVs out there today. And that's why he's not here. I know some of the people commented that, where's Kyle? We want to talk about the R1T. He's busy doing his thing, and those videos will be up on his channel pretty soon. I should have some R1T content also. A good friend of mine messaged me yesterday with a picture of it in his garage.
Hey!
Rivian delivered one to here in New Jersey to one of my friends. He was one of the early reservation holders. And he basically said, when are you coming over? He goes, you can take it whatever you want, charging tests, let's do range tests, all this stuff. But I was in California for 3 days. I'm home just for today. Tomorrow morning, I leave for Spain with Nissan for the Aria trip. So I don't even have time to go get the R1T and do anything, which is a shame because I had planned on being there when he got it delivered and record that and everything. But unfortunately it didn't happen. But really soon I'll have some Rivian content up with my buddy's truck.
Well, that's pretty lucky because as of the earnings call, they said they'd made 2,500 vehicles. I think it was produced, not delivered, so deliveries might be even less than that. So, your buddy is certainly in an elite group of people at the moment because there's not many of them in the wild, as it were. So that's very, very cool.
Well, he was one of the people, Martin, that was waiting for them to open up reservations.
Oh, wow.
And reservations opened and he's typing in his name and putting his deposit in, Well, that's how I was with the F-150 Lightning. But he was all in. First day, first hour, and he actually was in the BMW Active E trial program with me. That's how we got to know each other. He was here in New Jersey, and so we've been friends since the BMW Active E program. He's definitely an electric vehicle enthusiast. This isn't his first go around, but when he saw the R1T, he told me, he's like, I reserved that puppy the minute it became available.
Well, he's got himself a steal. I mean, those prices do, as much as they did it the wrong way, he has definitely, the prices could probably rise, just not the way they did it. He's definitely got him. Anyone who's paying the original price, you've got yourself a great vehicle.
I agree, and I'm one of those people.
Yes, you are.
It's still expensive. I mean, to say I got a deal at $85,000 really sounds, like a lot of our followers and most people can't afford an $85,000 vehicle, so to say it's cheap,
hands up.
But for the technology that's in it, it really is underpriced, quite honestly. I mean, that is packed with tech. And for 85, I'm even getting the camp kitchen, that pulls out and has the full kitchen and everything. So, I agree that, they probably have it at the correct pricing now. But as you said, Martin, the way they did it was just
not great.
Brutal. And did that give it? It gave them two black guys, not just one.
Yeah, no. What? And I forget the phrase in the earnings call or the shareholder letter, whatever it was, earlier this week or last week. I forget, but they didn't say the number of cancellations, but I think they said, I don't want to get it wrong. It was something like half of the cancellations came back, and they were trying to spin it positively, like half of all those that cancelled
it. I thought it was, well, they said more than half. But...
Or more than, well, that's 51%. So, you know, it was, they definitely got stung. Self-inflicted, obviously. So
absolutely. I mean, you know, I've talked to people that canceled the reservation and didn't jump back in. And basically because, you know, and I asked them, well, you know, you're not being harmed at all. You know,
no. They got the original deal.
What you planned on.
Same deal.
You know, so why, if last week you were willing to pay that for it, why are you not willing to pay that this week? And they were like, I don't trust the company anymore. I don't trust them.
Okay.
Yeah. They broke that
trust. Yeah.
And I'm very concerned about, you know, the one person told me, look, the first couple of years, like everything was positive. Like it seemed like they could do no wrong. And they said, you know what? I've been watching now the last 6 months or so. It seems like all the warts are being exposed, and they're not the company that I thought they were. And that's why, you know, I canceled and I'll just find something else. Now, you know, I agree that there's been some troubling news coming out, but I'm not that far to say that they've broken my trust and they can't get it back. People make mistakes. I like how RJ admitted, you know, look, this is on me. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I broke your trust. Let me earn it back. So, I mean, that's one positive to take out of this. I mean, there's plenty of CEOs that would not come out and say that. So, you know, hopefully that was just a blip, and they'll continue to improve and be a better company from this.
I think there's so many people like that in the EV space now. When you hear Jim Farley talk, I don't disagree with anything I hear now. When you hear Herbert Diess talk, it's all spot on. Carlos Tavares at Stellantis in January was talking about how EVs are too expensive to make, 40% more expensive than a combustion car. No one's going to pay that, you know. And then 1 minute it's like, this week he said we're going to overtake Tesla. Didn't give a metric. So what is that in sales, production, technology, software, UI? What is it? We're going to overtake Tesla. No, you're not, Stellantis. Don't be ridiculous. So I think he hasn't made his mind up yet about what he publicly wants to say. But yeah, if you look at the execs over the last couple of years that have not spoken well about electric vehicles, a few of them aren't in their post anymore. And I think with the current crop of top people, like you say, like RJ at Rivian, understanding how to communicate with this new kind of fan of car. It's you know, EV fans are subtly different in many ways.
Yeah. And I also think, Martin, I agree with you 100%. I also, going back to the Rivian cancellations, I think a lot of the people that canceled and didn't come back might have canceled anyway. There are people that threw that money down a while ago and were like, well, when it's time to configure, I'll make a decision then. And many of them were going to back out anyway when they looked at their checkbook and looked at how much of a bite this was going to take out. And, you know, that so I think this kind of cleared out some of the clutter, if you want to call it, you know, and now Rivian has a really good idea of how many of these reservations are gonna actually convert, you know. So I think that's part of what we saw with people. Some of the people canceling, a good percentage of them, I think, weren't going to go through with the purchase anyway.
Yeah.
Right. So it looks as though Tesla may be adding a new short-range trim level to Model Y. The well-known hacker, Tesla hacker, Green, he's at Green the Only on Twitter. He reports that when analyzing the new 2022.8.2 software update, he found a new car added to the list. So we add this clue to the fact that we found a 279-mile or 449-kilometer Model Y on the EPA website, and it seems likely that this will be the first model made at the Texas Gigafactory. So that's 51 fewer miles than the regular Model Y long range. So this will be the first vehicle, we think, built with 4680 cells with a new front and rear castings. So the whole front section and the whole rear section is like one single casting, which we were expecting would save some amount of weight. So my best guess is that the 4680 cells aren't super plentiful right now. Those are the new bigger cells. And so this is the way to make more cars with fewer cells, I guess. It's also an opportunity to sell a more affordable version of the Model Y. The long-range Model Y price has been shooting up like the rest of Tesla's prices, and now costs $62,999 or $990 before destination charges. So one thing I'm curious about is performance. Will a smaller 4680 pack in a lighter vehicle have a similar range or similar performance to the long range? That does 0 to 60 in like 4.8 seconds, which is pretty quick. Or whether it will charge faster. Tom, do you have any insight into the charging part, you think, or expectations?
So, it's interesting. There's been a lot of speculation on how the new battery cells will charge, so that they'll charge better, they'll charge quicker. But it is a smaller battery pack, so that affects what your maximum charge rate can be. The bigger the battery pack, you can pump in more juice into it. So I wouldn't
higher power
expect,
levels, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't personally, and this is just a guess. There's no inside information. You don't get any inside information from Tesla. I would expect it to charge very similarly to the other vehicles, because this is their value play. It's a smaller battery, short range. It can't do things better than the more expensive version. It can't charge quicker. I think they would almost limit it so that if it could charge faster, they would limit the charging so that at best it charges the same. From 10 to 80% would be the same. But I mean, who knows? Tesla can do whatever they want. But that's what I would think, at least, that you don't want to have the less expensive model being better than the more expensive model in almost any regard, Dom, because it doesn't incentivize people to spend more money. And let's face it, they're not bringing out this low-cost option to take people that would have bought the more expensive one and put them in this. What's that?
It's got 51 miles less range, so that's one metric that it doesn't exceed the long range Model Y.
I gotcha. I totally understand that, but I still think that they wouldn't want it to charge better than the faster than the longer range version. But I mean, hey, that's, like I said, that's my guess.
Because they can't have those two on sale at the same time. You can't have a wildly new, better Model Y, which was going to be which was the speculation for years. Which was the minute they start making this, version 2.0 Model Y, that no one's going to buy and in fact, I think I read something on somewhere this week where somebody got their Model Y confirmed and was like, is that Fremont or is that Texas? And it's Fremont. They cancelled it because they want the Texas Model Y. And Tom's absolutely right. Tesla will not make a wildly better car, even that's the same price, because nobody will buy the old one. So they'll make it.
Right.
I think this does good things behind the scenes, Tom. They'll do more with less. They've got their new battery technology, but there's no way they're going to harm their existing business by making a brilliant new 500-mile, really fast-charging Model Y that's less money. Never going to happen.
Right. I think they might stop. I wonder if they'll stop making Model Y at Fremont and just make Model 3 there, and then convert all the Model Ys with the longer range Model Y long range to Austin Gigafactory.
That'd be fine when they're all the same, but even then, Model 3 will be different. So it's, if you've got these magical new cells that do these wonderful things, everybody's going to want them, especially Tesla buyers. They want the latest, greatest. People have been knocking back cars because it hasn't got the new NVIDIA chip or the 12-volt lithium-ion battery. They get their car, they're like, no, I don't want this one. I'll wait for the next one. You're like, just get the car. So that's the level. Different. That's the level of awareness that these fans have, that love for the brand. They're on the forums, they're just engaging with the podcasts and everything, and they know more about the cars than anyone. So they're very specific with the car they get.
Well, I'm in California this week, and let me tell you, there's a lot of people that love their Teslas out here. There's all kinds of them, man. They're everywhere. It's kind of great. I've seen a lot of other other brands of EVs on the road as well, and it's kind of nice to see. Like, I saw an EV6 on the road, and e-tron. There's just a bunch of different cars I've seen. It's kind of neat being out here. But sticking with Tesla for a moment, we should note that it continues to raise its prices here, and even in China, the most affordable rear drive Model 3 is now a long way from the $35,000 price point.
We lost. Oh no, we've lost it.
Keep talking.
Oh no, we've got you. You're back.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we
can hear you.
Okay.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah, my screen went. Okay.
Yeah, we got you.
So the most affordable rear-wheel drive Model 3 is now a long way from the $35,000 price point that was promised a few years back. It's now $46,990 before destination charges, with deliveries estimated. So if you order one now, you should be able to take delivery in May. So there's I guess still a fair amount of demand, and so they're making hay while the sun shines, and charging as much as they can. The Tesla Model X performance is up a whopping $12,500 to $135,990. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but Tom, how much do you think the BMW iX M50? Oh, could you hear me?
You're freezing up.
So
you're talking about pricing on the iX. That base model, that iX M50, the base model is $84,000. The model that I tested, as tested, was $90,000. But do not, you have to compare it to the Model X. So many people, when I tweeted out pictures of the fact that I was driving the iX, just wanted to compare it to the Model Y. And it is not a Model Y competitor. It is a Model X competitor.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's a large, it's much bigger than a Model Y. It's not quite, it's 3 inches smaller than a Model X, but it is in that class. And interior wise, luxury wise, and everything, it's completely out of the Model Y's category.
Yeah.
So it is less expensive, I think, than a comparable Model X. And to me, it's a better vehicle. The only thing it doesn't do as well is charge, and it doesn't have the supercharger network. Now that's a big only thing, though. If you're going to drive really far with the vehicle a lot, nothing matches the Tesla supercharger network. But the fact of it is, most people don't. Most people don't drive really far a lot. They think they need it, but then they end up really not needing public charging all that much. If you're buying a $100,000 car like a Model X or a Model or an iX, chances are you have the ability to charge at home. Most people have their own home, their own garage, and you just don't need to use public infrastructure that often. A couple of times a year when you go on long drives, and you know what? If it takes you an extra half an hour to charge 3 times a year, in my opinion, it's really not that big of a deal. That's just my personal preferences. I would definitely go for an iX over a Model X. But jumping really back quickly, I know we're up against it with the time down with the Model Y and their price increase. It's now the new, the Model Y right now, the cheapest one's $62,000 or something, I think you said.
Yeah.
Until at least they announce pricing for this, the new short range plus version, whatever that's going to be available.
It makes room, yeah.
Yeah. If you're shopping Model Y, go take a look at the Cadillac Lyriq. It's coming out in like a month, I think, and loaded, it's $59,900. And
I believe production starts Monday or Tuesday next week. Customer car production starts Monday or Tuesday next. I think it's Tuesday. The first customer car is made.
Yeah. Now these are the
deliveries around the end of May, I believe.
Yeah.
Right. It's coming up really soon.
Right.
But
those are rear-wheel drive.
It's launching only with the rear-wheel drive version. So for those that need all-wheel drive or want all-wheel drive, that's not coming out until I think another 6 months. And pricing hasn't been announced for the all-wheel drive version yet. But there's plenty of people that live, for at least here in the U.S. Most of the country doesn't require all-wheel drive. At least half of it. Really, you don't need it.
Get snow tires.
Exactly. And even, there's a lot of areas that you don't even have to worry about snow tires. All the southern states, really don't get snow.
No.
And where you live, you don't need all-wheel drive. But I think it's a tremendous value at $59,900. It's got a 100 kilowatt-hour battery pack. It's going to be rated at 300 miles of range, EPA range rating. GM's promised it's going to come in at EPA range at 300. Charges at 200 kilowatt. And the interior is just so plush and supple. It is a true premium interior. That vehicle has one of the nicest, most comfortable interiors of any vehicle. I actually did a first impressions video. I didn't get to drive it, but GM invited me to an event where they only invited a few people. I'm one of the few people that got to sit in it and really do walk around videos and everything earlier on. This was back in September, I think, or even August. I was pleasantly surprised. I went into it saying, I'm not too excited about this. But I honestly, after walking around, sitting in everything, I was like, this is a great vehicle. And it's big. It's bigger than what I originally thought it was. I thought it was, in a little bit of a more compact, like more of like my Chevy Equinox class. And it's not. Right. It's much bigger than that. And super, super impressed. Looks beautiful. It's got good specs. And it costs less. I mean, you put this next to a Model Y. There's no comparison. If somebody didn't tell you the prices, you would think that this was $10,000 to $15,000 more than a Model Y, maybe $20,000 more, and it actually costs less. So, I know a lot of people just think, EVs begin and end with Tesla, and the Tesla makes great vehicles. Hell, I own one. I own a Model 3, so I must be a fan of them. But there are other EVs coming out there now that are pretty darn good and expand what you're willing to consider and check out some of these vehicles. And the Lyriq's a pretty darn good EV.
Absolutely.
So if you want a Cadillac Lyriq, the orders open up on May 19th. So if you have a reservation, you can convert that to an order on May 19th. And so that's something to mark on your calendar. And then they'll be out making deliveries by the end of that month. And the all-wheel drive, you can that goes into production at the end of the year, and deliveries begin at the very first of 2023. But we should talk about this new station wagon, actually, before we run out of time. So if you like station wagons, then make sure you take the time to feast your eyes on the Audi A6 Avant e-tron concept. It was just revealed during the 2022 annual media conference that Audi held, and it looks pretty sweet. It's built on the PPE platform that Audi is sharing with Porsche, and that succeeds the J1 platform that the Taycan is built on. But like the Taycan, it's got an 800-volt architecture, a peak charge rate of 270 kilowatts. They say it can add 186 miles of charge in 10 minutes at a DC fast charger. Of course, that would be from a low state of charge at a station that puts out 350 kilowatts. The concept features a dual-motor all-wheel drive powertrain with 350 kilowatts or 469 horsepower total output, 590 pound-feet of torque, and it should scoot from a standstill to 60 in about or under 4 seconds. So it's properly quick. Production models will get a single motor rear-wheel drive variant, as well as it should be a little bit slower but offer more range. At Martin, actually, if you have the link to the Motor 1 version of that, they've got a good gallery of pictures there. We went with a video, and sometimes it's a little slow to play, but Motor 1 has a good gallery of that car.
Oh, this is but it's not the station wagon though. Am I on the wrong page?
Oh, that's a different one. Yeah.
A6 e-tron still. Hello.
Is that the link that I gave you?
Hello. No, I might have got the wrong. I might have got the wrong link, but still, that's also very, very beautiful.
Right. So I guess they released those pictures too this week. That's the A6 Avant, not
the Motor 1
the e-tron without the Avant.
Yeah.
The Avant is the station. It means like station wagon or estate in
estate car.
Audi speak.
Yeah. Oh yes. Oh yes. Look at this. That's it. That's right on the money. Yes.
Except for those rear, kind of looks like exhaust things going on.
Yeah, they tried to give the diffuser the kind of exhaust shape because heaven forbid not having the fake diffuser exhaust thing on the back of cars. And that
that's a bad idea.
Stupid, ridiculous. But the rest, holy bazookas. That's something else.
And this is the concept, so there's some hope that they'll, calm that down at the back.
Stop
for production.
Audi.
I don't know.
That's ridiculous.
So,
and they put cameras on for wing mirrors, but they'll go. Actually, they might not in Europe. They might not because the e-tron.
It's got no door handles.
What?
I mean, on the concept, the production version will have door handles, obviously, but just on this one, there's like nothing. So. But it will go supposedly 435 miles on the WLTP test. So that's like a lot of range. So I know we don't always like to talk about concepts too much here, but this is definitely going into production and will look pretty close, I think, to what we see here. So I don't know. I guess, Martin, an electric estate, does that speak to you?
Yes, every day of the week it speaks to me. That is absolutely lovely. Perfect. I don't want another SUV. I want an estate car. Thank you. SUV, look, they're great because you're in the high seating position and more of an armchair and all that. But I get it. I get it with families and kids in the back. I get it. But this is, oh, yes, look. I mean, the more I see those diffuser
and lower roof gives you more range too, right?
Yeah, I'm actually starting to really hate the back now that I look at it more and more. Oh God, make them black. Don't make them that. Let me go back. Don't make them silver. Just have that piece of trim in black, and you'll get away with it. And undoubtedly, that's there to probably suck some air through and maybe get some undercar aero something going on. But and it's looking like it's going to spit the air out the back there for whatever reason. But yeah, I mean, don't put wing mirrors on this. Maybe give it door handles. I'd like to get inside it. I'd rather just not look at it in my driveway and not drive it. But give it some door handles. Stick the mirrors on the side for... Actually, no, because can the US have cameras yet? No, it was the lights you changed. It was the Matrix LED lights you changed. You still can't have cameras.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
We just got the lights.
Right. You're not missing much, but still...
Speaking of lights, this thing has some fancy lights on it. Like, so I guess you can like pull up to, say a charge, and if there's like a blank wall in front of you, you can like play video, like your lights will project like a video game screen or movies, I guess. I don't know. It sounds like a pretty crazy to me. I didn't really dive deep into that part of it, but it just caught my eye reading. It was like, what? That's kind of crazy. But awesome crazy also if it actually works really well.
Wow.
It's like
and it's
your own personal driving.
Yeah, and it's the e-tron GT, it's the Taycan underneath, with all of that amazing technology. Hey, I was going to say
it's on a different platform actually.
I thought they were using the same. So even though the speed's the same, so even though it's 270 kilowatts, which again is the same speed, and even though it's 800 volts, it's different suppliers or different suppliers of the battery, the inverter, and things.
It's on the PPE platform.
Okay.
So it's a brand new platform that they've developed with Porsche, I believe.
Okay.
And the Taycan's on the J1, which is like a slightly older and different. So this is like the brand new one. I think the
Porsche Macan
will be on this. Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Lovely.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yes. Wow.
So we had a bonus episode last Monday. We had a gentleman from ChargePoint on, and we couldn't talk about it then, but they are going to power a new network at Starbucks locations. It's sponsored by Volvo. I don't know if you heard about this on your trip, if they talked about this on your trip at all, Tom, but so it's going to be like free for Volvo drivers. It's like a small. I mean, the network starts small with like 15 locations along a route from Seattle to Denver. Seattle is like the home of Starbucks, and so they're starting off with this. But they're level, they're DC fast chargers, so you can get it. I'm not sure what the exact power level is. I'm thinking is at least 100 kilowatts, maybe 150. I don't know. Have you heard about this at all?
Yeah. So the funny thing is, I drove by that Starbucks on the press drive. This was all, they took this picture while they were out there preparing for our media drive. And as you might imagine, there's no ChargePoint CPE 200 there. That was photoshopped in. Yeah. So
wow,
funny.
Don't trust the internet.
Yeah. So I drove right by it. I'm like, hey, wait a minute. That's that's the picture in the press release. And so I'm sure I imagine the car's real because they did have the cars out there, and that's the color of the cars that we had. So I would imagine that's real, but they photoshopped in the charger. So
They've done a good job.
And as far as power, I mean, this is a partnership with ChargePoint, and we talked about the ChargePoint CPE 200. It's a 120 kilowatt max, but it splits the power. So, if two people plug in, you're only getting 60 kilowatts. And even if one person plugs in, it's a 100. It's only a 200 amp system. So a 400 volt battery pack will only get 80 amps maximum out of it. So
they say that on the press release. Sorry, but they say on the press release you can go from 20 to 80% in about 40 minutes. Well, that seems like it'd be like a higher power one, no?
No,
so yeah, it should be, but you know what, Dom, the vehicle can go 20 to 80% in 40 minutes. I don't know if it specifically says it can go at those locations, and it could also just be a fact of marketing, pulling basic information from Volvo and putting it out there,
right.
Not understanding that different DC fast chargers have different power levels. I mean, we find
right.
that all the time. I've corrected companies that have sent out press releases to me like in advance, and there's an embargo till tomorrow, and I read through it, and they just have like blatant mistakes in their charging kilowatts and speed, and I sent it back to them. And matter of fact, this happened just last week, and I'm not going to embarrass the OEM, but that happened, and I was able to have them send out a correction to all the other journalists before they printed the information that they sent it out. So this is new. They're not used to dealing with talking about kilowatt power and how fast it can charge. There's plenty of people that work for marketing teams that just think that if their vehicle pulls up to a DC fast charger, it will be able to charge at the maximum rate the vehicle can accept, which, as we know, isn't the case.
Right.
And I would imagine that's going to be the case here, because I'm certain. While I don't know this for a fact, I know charging, and I know the companies, I know the equipment they have out there. I'm pretty certain that they're going to be using the CPE 200s, the ones that are the 120 kilowatt that can split the power if two people plug in, because those cost so much less than the higher power equipment that ChargePoint has to offer. And I don't see Volvo investing that much more to get marginally quicker. And to be honest with you, think about it. If you're Starbucks, do you want somebody to be able to recharge in 20 minutes, or do you want them to need 40 minutes?
Now, there's an interesting psychology to what Tom just said, because I've got a Starbucks near me that's just slightly out of town on the main road that runs down to the southwest of the country. And occasionally I will, if I need to charge the car quickly, or I'm coming home from a road trip, I will pop in there, because it's a 50 kilowatt, it's InstaVolt, 50 kilowatt, and it uses the ChargePoint hardware. It's a 50 kilowatt charger. So I will go in. And when you are in, rather than use, because it's got a drive-through, so actually I'll pull in, I'll charge the car, I'll go in, I'll get a coffee. But because I'm going to be sat down for 20, 25 minutes, and they've got free Wi-Fi, I mean, I'm buying the cake, right? I'm thinking, like the big gold chocolate coin, like the big gold coins you get on Christmas trees with the chocolate inside. Like my son sees those, like he's 3, so of course he knows, daddy goes to Starbucks. That's really interesting psychology. And of course I knew it. I just didn't know I knew it. But I always spend more money in Starbucks because I charge the car for half an hour.
If it's a 15-minute stop, many people will just sit in their car and
You're
wait.
You're right.
But some people might just walk out, use Starbucks restroom, and then come back to their car, wait another 5 minutes, unplug and leave. But if they're tethered there for 45 minutes, they're probably going to make a purchase.
I always do, and it's a bigger purchase than a coffee. It's a coffee and a thing, and a sandwich or a roll. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
So
I've been played.
on the Starbucks end, I don't think they're incentivized to make to have the best, most expensive equipment. And quite honestly, as I said, the price of the ChargePoint equipment goes up dramatically when you start going into the higher powered units than the CPE 200. So sure. I would be really surprised if Volvo said, no, we want these cars to be able to, all our customers to accept over 100 kilowatts when they plug in at a Starbucks, we'll see.
All right. Well, we're just about out of time, but I should mention that there's going to be a GMC Hummer EV documentary tomorrow on the History Channel. I don't have a whole lot of details, but if you're interested in Hummer EV and want to hear about its story, then you can tune into, if the internet loads here at the hotel. You'll be able to tune into this. I'm not sure if it's a 60-minute documentary, so it's like a full hour.
Yeah, I mean,
and I don't see exactly what the details are as far as like when it's
11 a.m. Eastern.
Display.
It's 11 a.m. But there are enough hardcore fans of the brand that are going to sit and watch a 60-minute documentary.
Right, 11 a.m. Eastern, yeah. And then it's going to be aired as an encore on Thursday, March 31st at 9 p.m. Eastern. Nice. And you could also stream it on History on Hulu and history.com. Oh, okay, so that's what I'm doing. Oh, and they'll add it to the YouTube channel on April the 3rd. So there are your chances to see that thing. We have this little post up on Inside EVs, so you can see like the trailer for it, and it actually it's going to be an enjoyable 60 minutes, I think, if you have like an interest at least in electric vehicles. And if you're watching us like this long, you probably do. All right.
Yeah. I won't show too much of it, or we'll get dinged. But
right.
Yeah, it looks. I mean, behind the scenes, so cool.
Yeah. Should be good. Okay, so let me close this, and then so I guess that brings us to the end of our show. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them on the Inside EVs forum podcast thread or on our YouTube or Twitch comment sections. If you like the show, please give us a thumbs up if you're watching us on YouTube. Don't forget you can find and follow our panelists on Twitter. Follow Tom Moloughney at Tomolog, that's with 2 M's. Martin Lee is at EV News Daily. I'm at Dominic_Y. Click subscribe and tap that bell icon for notifications, and we'll see you all again next week. Ciao.